talk in depth about the draft later, so we'll keep that kind of on deck, if you will. But is there anything that's changed that has in your guys' mind changed the way the Raiders may draft based on some of these signings we've seen over the last couple of weeks?
Last couple of weeks, no.
No. Right.
Because I mean, the people they've brought in are basically just a placeholder, or a space filler. You know, you're not going to change the plans you had for the draft just because you got these guys. They are, you know, hopefully a good backup or depth.
Right.
You know, if you're starting any of them, you're in trouble.
Well, if you know, they're all young players on these prove-it contracts, which is perfect for us. But, you know, a couple of them could actually shine, turn into something.
Who's going to shine? You tell me.
That's
a question I was going to ask.
Yeah,
really,
that's yet to be determined. But, you know, that's the hope, right? We brought in, what, I don't know, a dozen of these 4th, 5th, 6th-year players, make it, you know, 1 year make it contracts. So hopefully one or two of them steps up. You know, the best you can hope for is you get a couple of solid pros out of it. Maybe more. You never know.
That would be helpful, wouldn't
it? Well, that's, you know, a lot of the teams, you get a couple of guys that come out of nowhere and they just turn into really big contributors. And that just helps put you over the hump there and put you, you know, get you to the top.
Yes, absolutely. And I think, too, that if you look at what's been happening this week, we'll start with one of the controversial subjects, and that, of course, was Antonio Brown tweeting, and he took attention away from the president tweeting all the time, I think, with his comments about Juju Schuster-Smith, or is it Smith-Schuster? I always forget the order.
I was a little upset Aaron Rodgers was getting all of the attention all week with his little drama, so
yeah.
Luckily, Antonio Brown.
But here's the question, guys. I don't look
Shocker,
at the...
people don't like Aaron Rodgers. What else is new?
A lot of prognosticators and NFL experts have said that this is going to be a big distraction for the Raiders, having Antonio Brown. He's going to explode. He's going to do this. This is the Raiders. Do people forget it's the Raiders? The Raiders of Bill Romanowski, of Matt Millen, of Phil Villapiano. Okay.
Jack Tatum,
Lester Hayes. Come on. Like, where is the desire? I mean, has Raider Nation and the Raider mystique lost that edge because they've had nobody like that for 16 years? Kelly?
It's
now wait, Kelly, you and Chaz, let me add this. You and Chaz are lifelong Raiders fans. You grew up Raiders fans, the whole thing, your whole life, okay? That's not who I am. So a lot of people ask me all the time, am I a fan? And I always say, I'm a fan of the Raiders doing well. It's a little bit different. I didn't grow up as a Raider fan. You guys have been Raider fans your entire life. So do you think that edge has gone and that bringing him back and bringing a Burfict in is going to bring a little bit of that swagger back?
I hope so, because especially with the Burfict, because, I mean, he is basically what we've had at linebacker or defensive line for years. You know, it was always the running joke because you would just take the first 15-yard penalty to try to knock the quarterback out. It was worth it.
Yep.
You know, just take the one shot. I think it's just everybody in general now. It's just anytime... And not just sports fans and, you know, everyday walk of life. It's not just political correctness, but, can't do this, can't rock the boat, can't do anything.
Safety rules.
Screw that, man. It's like he is who he is. We know what we're getting into. We'll see what happens on the field. Who cares?
Right. It's football. We want to see people smash. We want to see Jack Tatum spearing the pile, you know, after the whistle. It's just a different game now, and I understand it. Like you said, it's politically correct, and it's all the safety rules in place. Everybody's playing nice now, which is great, and it's good for the actual people, you know, as a person. But as a sport, you know, we want to see them crashing into each other, and we want to see that.
But also,
edge.
We do. But at the same time, I understand money's changed a little bit too, right? There's so much money. It changes everything. I don't care what anybody says. At the same time, I'm not shocked by national people, you know, jamming on the Raiders and calling the Raiders going to be a mess because of Antonio Brown, because that's always the modus operandi of the national media with the Raiders, because those folks are old enough, most of them, to remember when the Raiders were that ragtag group of what they considered to be bad guys. But with the younger fans, in an era of social media, where some people are celebrated for being bold and controversial and calling people out, that's what I'm most shocked by, is the fan reaction to it.
Well, the social media is a big part of it too. Now, you know, back then it wasn't. You had your one or two local beat writers, and they could whip up all these amazing stories about the guys, and the Raiders, once you get that mystique, it's really easy to start writing stories about it. But now with all the social media, everybody's so accessible, and they've got all their thoughts and all of their picture of their breakfast out there every day. It's just not as
pictures of their breakfast. It's so true. It is. I mean, but at the same time, I think that we want people to be boastful. We want them to be good on the field. But then when Antonio Brown calls out a former teammate who I think Marcellus Wiley, by the way, on his Fox show, showed that actually Juju, grown man going by the name Juju, by the way, Juju actually kind of started it, Kelly, with a picture, right?
Yeah, and that's the thing that's getting missed in all this. I mean, would it have been better if Brown just kind of didn't say anything and let it go? Yeah, because then it wouldn't be an issue. But he's not. No. Especially they're wide receivers. Wide receivers are the biggest diva position in sports.
Yeah.
No, there's not.
Terrell Owens thinks he's being a diva.
If you see any kind of shade from these guys, they're not going to sit there and take that. They're going to come back. They're going to throw their 2 cents, 4 cents, 6 cents in whenever they can.
It's part of the game. We kind of want a guy that's social media savvy too, because we want that insight. We want to see kind of what's going on with the team and what's going on with the players. So that it just kind of goes along with all sports now.
Well, Chaz, isn't that true though? Like, I think people, no matter what the celebrity, they want more of them, and then when they get it, sometimes they fight back against it. It's a very strange phenomenon.
It is as well. Everybody's different. Everybody in the media can always paint a picture of guys. I spent a lot of time with Kobe, and Kobe, when he's out in the public, he puts up a wall because everybody's grabbing at him. Everybody wants a picture. Everybody wants an autograph. Everybody's grabbing at him. So he has to put up that wall. So now the media paints him as this, negative and recluse, and he's not. He's a great guy. When you talk to him and you're one-on-one with him, he's really personal. So the media can kind of create things because of perception becoming reality, and all these, across the board in all sports, it's kind of like that. There's one person here, but in actuality, they're really a different person because of what the media turns them out to be.
Yeah, and we have on our Facebook feed, Victor Raphael, a good comment. He said, the last badass we had was KO, and he's gone now. Burfict taking cheap shots doesn't make him like the old Raiders. Neither does Brown tweeting. And
taking cheap shots is exactly what the old Raiders used to do.
That's what I'm saying, though. And Victor, I get it, Victor, and I understand what you're saying, but Ted Hendricks and those guys, let me tell you, they'll tell you to your face, and I've talked to them several times here in town, and they tell you, oh, yeah, I used to gouge people's eyes. I used to punch them in the nuts.
Yeah, in the pile.
In the pile, yeah, which you can't pile anymore. So, all right, we're going to step aside here for a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Mike Mayock's press conference, his pre-draft press conference that occurred this week, hear from sound from him, and we'll talk about whether or not there's hints inside about how the Raiders may go in the draft. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio. Don't go anywhere.
Entercom's first ever Great Easter Egg Hunt at Reflection Bay Beach and Golf Club at Lake Las Vegas is on Sunday, April 14th. Radio 1140.
Help us talk the silver and black. Call us at 702-889-5978. Here's Scott Gulbranson on CBS Sports Radio 1140 AM.
Indeed I am, and indeed you are. You're there. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Thanks so much for being with us on our year anniversary. That's right. A year ago today we started the show. We have not had a week off. We don't take bye weeks, right?
We're the Raiders. We play hard every week.
Now we're actually going to get some time off during this summer, which will be good. But we have a draft ahead, and we can't leave the show for even a bit of time until we talk and go through that with you guys. And appreciate everybody being on the Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube feeds watching us right now live. You can multicast if you want to. Listen to us on the radio, listen to us on the radio.com app, or listen to us and watch us on the video channel. So there you go. All right, so now we're going to get into, guys, a little chat about Mike Mayock's press conference this week, his pre-draft press conference, and with always this in mind, and that's what Kelly always says, right, which is don't listen to anything anybody says during draft time because it's all lies, correct?
Everything's a lie.
It's true.
So
it's the truth.
It's the truth. Yeah, there you go. So that's what we're going to talk about because we want to see if we could at least glean some things from what the Raiders general manager Mike Mayock has said. And so we're going to talk about that. One of the questions that comes up, of course, a lot, Mike Mayock went from the broadcast booth, the broadcast studio, where he did this for years and years and years, to a general manager position in the NFL. It doesn't happen very often, right? And when it does, in the past, other times it's happened, it's not turned out well, let's say, when people went from one to the other, although it's also been successful a few times. But we're going to hear from him on what he said. When he was asked, what's the difference between scouting all 32 teams and now being responsible for not only scouting for one, but also drafting for one and building a team to be successful. And here's what Mayock had to say.
Yeah, it's a lot different. I think my old job was to try to be the GM for all 32 teams, and I had a board that was stacked for what I would call league value. Now, wow, there's a lot of clicks just because I went like that. That was really weird. So league value is one thing, you know, and what I used to do in my old job was I'd talk to a bunch of GMs and head coaches the week before the draft. I'd send them my board because they'd want to see it. To them, it was league value, so it was a tool for the teams to use, and it was a way for me to talk about my board where it might have some weaknesses. So now you're just doing it for one team. Now, I still have to be aware, and we're working really hard on understanding what the team needs are and the scenarios are around the league, and I think league value is a way to kind of understand where you might be able to move up or down in the draft. So understanding league value is still a part of it, but understanding what we want to do as Raiders is the biggest piece. League
value. We're going to have a draft bingo card, right? Kelly, we were talking about this before the show. Talk about league value, Kelly, for the listeners. And what Mayock said there, we kind of already knew. I mean, you look at things from a different approach. He didn't say anything that we wouldn't expect, right? But talk about league value and what he means by looking at things through that different lens.
Well, basically, it's like your big, like say your big board. You're not picking where you think people are going to go. You're picking the best players, in your opinion, for each spot. And when he talks about league value, it's an overall view of what everything is without any need. So he's saying, well, you know, the league value of this guy is 12 to 14. I can trade from 4 to 10, and he should still be there. You know, and that's basically if you're looking to trade up or down, that's what it's good for. And like I said, if you like with 3 picks, you're trying to figure out, okay, who might be here. The whole league value is kind of where you can place your guys. so-and-so will not be there unless something happens and they fall. So-and-so will be there. So you can kind of plan your boards around what perceived league value is.
So, Chaz, now let me ask you this question, because you, as a scout in the NBA, you were part of many, many drafts. You were in the draft room. You saw big boards, albeit NBA.
Yep.
When you're going into that approach, and you're Mike Mayock, who comes into it all new, how hard is it to integrate and to get familiar with all of that? Now, Mayock has the advantage, right? He was doing it on TV.
Yeah, he's been doing it for a long time, so I don't think it's that new to him. Like he said, he's been doing it for all 32 teams, and he's got to put up a board for all 32 teams. So it might be a little easier for him just to have to do it for one team this year. But he wasn't brought in because of his GM. How great he was as a GM. He's never done it before, and we've kind of seen that with other guys that haven't done it before. So, but he was brought in just to nail this draft, these next two drafts, because he knows the drafts and he knows the players, and he's going to learn how to be a GM on the fly, which is fine. But he pretty much just said everything I've been talking about the last month or so, as far as the scouting and the draft process. Just getting the best available, and don't reach for need, and stay true to your grades on your draft board. He's not really going out of the lane at all. He's just saying everything that's pretty much everything that he talked about is pretty much every draft, every kind of the way everything goes. But the one thing he did say that I haven't talked about yet is the medical reports, and that's tangible, because we did we as scouts, we would come in about a week and a half before the draft, and we would meet every month, so we already had our board pretty much set up. But then you tweak it a little bit. But about 2 days before the draft, the head athletic trainer would come in and give us the medicals, and there would be, I don't know, a dozen guys with a few things here and there, but there'd be a couple that were pretty major, and now we'd all have to sit back down and kind of reevaluate what we want to do with these guys. We're going to move them down a little bit.
Yeah.
Is it a career-threatening type of injury that's never been reported before? Is he going to be able to overcome that? So, when he talked about the medicals, that was something that was really major.
Yeah, because you need to make sure the investment you're making is worthy. Okay, so now they also asked Mayock about the draft picks, and kind of with having 4, 24, 27, and 35, what might they do with those? And so here's what Mayock said about the draft order for the Raiders.
As John keeps telling me, don't mess it up, dude. I took a lot of slings to get you 3 first-round picks. But we laugh about it all the time. But I don't, A, I don't feel any pressure about it. B, I love it and embrace it, because it's going to give us an opportunity to continue to try to turn the corner here and become a good football team. And I think what it really gives us is flexibility, and that's what I love about it. Obviously, we can move up, and you got to know what you're trying to do and how you're trying to do it. You can try to increase your draft capital by moving down, or you stay the same. And the 4 of the first 35 picks gives you an opportunity to consider all those scenarios multiple times. And again, that's why we're opening up the line of communications with all the teams around the league. I think I keep telling our guys, and you guys have heard me say this before, we need to be nimble. And nimble means, depending on what the situation is, to be able to react quickly according to the situation and make the right decision.
All right, Kelly, interpret that.
He's not saying anything. Every GM wants to trade down. They want more picks because that's more shots at hitting somebody. Mm-hmm. If I was a GM, I would be the other way, though. I would be the guy looking to trade up, because I would rather have 2 picks in the top 10 than 3 picks 30 to 60, because I would rather, I know I've got my premium players up top. I will gamble on premium more than I want to gamble on this guy's good, but he's got this, or right. He doesn't do this, but he does this. We can fix that. Or he does this well, but it doesn't do that. I would rather take more shots at those premium players and try to get for more in your back end of a draft.
I agree with you too. I'd much rather have players at the top of the pick, because you're gonna get some solid foundational players. It's funny you said 30 to 60, because Mike Mayock said I'd rather have the 20 to 60 because they're safer picks.
Yeah.
And it's true. Yeah, you can find a couple of guys here and there, and you don't have as high expectations for these guys. So when they do rise up and become solid players. Like, well, we did great because we got them at 60.
Well, and here we'll close out this segment real quick with I said segment. I hate saying segment. I'm trying to get that word out of my vernacular. Here is Mayock talking about not reaching, right? So not reaching for a player just based on need, and how he deals with that internally with the coaching staff.
You know, I'm the son of a coach, and I know how coaches think, and coaches think need. Okay, and we're a coach-driven building. Our coaches are highly involved, and that's good. I embrace that. The flip side is you can't reach. You got to use some common sense, you know, and that's what I preach upstairs, is that if we're in a situation where we have two similarly rated players and one's a higher position of need, great, let's go get them. But if there's a discount, a disparity between the two, let's not reach for need, because the more you do that, the more you dilute your roster. And that's a conversation we've had a lot.
All right, and there it is. And we're going to talk more about this later in the show, so don't go anywhere, but we're going to step aside here for a break. And when we come back, we're going to be joined by Raiders and Pro Football Hall of Famer Mike Haynes.
Yes.
One of, if not the best, cover corner to ever play the game. I know Deion Sanders might have something to say about that, but we're going to talk to him. So don't go anywhere. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Hi, this is Steve Wisniewski, and you're listening to the Silver and Black Today.
All right, welcome back to the Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio. And we are excited to be joined today by Raiders great, Hall of Famer, and to me, one of the best football players to ever play the game in the NFL, and that, of course, is Mike Haynes. Played 14 seasons in the NFL, 4 All-Pro selections, 9 Pro Bowls. In the course of his career, 46 interceptions, 688 interception return yards, and I remember one specifically in Miami. Drafted number 5 overall in the 1976 draft out of ASU to the Patriots. Joined the Raiders in 1983. That was a pretty good year to join the Raiders. Mike Haynes, thanks for joining. Well, let's talk. We're going to talk a little bit about your career in the time that we have. Let's start with that year you joined the Los Angeles Raiders, 1983. Of course, culminated in the Super Bowl. That defense that you played on in 1983 and '84 in the Super Bowl, was that really the highlight of your career that year in the Super Bowl victory against the Redskins by the score of 38-9?
Actually, I have to say it probably is. You know, I didn't know it at the time. I thought I'd have another trip to the Super Bowl with that defense we had, but it didn't work out that way. It was really a lot of fun for me because there were so many great players, and you know, now we know Howie Long in the Hall of Fame, and I think Lester Hayes should be in the Hall of Fame, and a lot of other guys on that team. But yeah, it was a lot of fun, and I was fortunately. And I really think it's our success.
And Coach Flores obviously should be in the Hall of Fame. We all thought it was going to happen this year. It's well overdue. I can't think of a reason why he's not there. Can you?
I cannot, and I actually talked to him about it at the Hall of Fame, and I'm hoping that this year, because it's a special year, it's a 100-year celebration, they're talking about putting some additional guys in, and I'm hoping he's one of those guys that gets in under that new type of formula.
Well, I know Raider Nation is excited about that and wants to make it happen. And as we stand here, and I'm looking at you in your gold jacket, the closest I've been to one in a while. Let me ask you this question: the game today has changed a lot. When you played on the Raiders, you and Lester Hayes, I mean, I can't think of two guys who could cover better. With the way the game has changed, with what we saw in the playoffs with the Saints and the Rams, we don't have to relive all of that, but the way it's changed, how would you have to play the game today, and how would you have to change your game, do you think?
Well, I don't think I would have to change my game a whole heck of a lot. I mean, the 5-yard bump rule, it's pretty much the same. And you know, being the fierce tackler that I was, I don't think I'd have to really change my tackling style. I'd have to be careful, though. Like if what we used to always say is the guy's not down till he's down. So part of his body is still up, then you still try to punish him. And I might have to change the way I approach that. But that would really be about it. Lester would have to change a lot more than I would. He was very, very aggressive and took different chances that I didn't take. And but it would have been a lot of fun. I think we both would have been able to play under the current rules.
Well, and on that defense that you played on with the Raiders, you know, everybody talks about the 1985 Bears, of course. That defense you were on, remarkable. And we talked about the Super Bowl a little earlier. To hold the Redskins going into that game, highest scoring offense in NFL history, you held them to 9 points, and you had a big play in that, including a big interception in the Super Bowl. Talk about that defense. I mean, Matuza, you had a lot of guys on that defense, very, very colorful personalities. You were known as the Gentleman Raider. How was it for you, and how did you interact with all those guys?
Well, I had a lot of fun with them. I think when I first became a Raider, I had a lot to learn. I broke a lot of rules that, you know, that I didn't know that they had in place, and I can't even tell you about them, you know, on air here in case one of those guys finds out. But I loved it, and it was a different culture, a lot different from the culture I was used to. You know, they were really good guys, and you know, a lot of people only know the Raiders as, you know, big hitters, tough guys, mean guys, and stuff like that. They really don't know that in the off season we did a lot of charity work. I mean, we go around and play different, you know, groups, organizations in basketball and softball and things like that. Raise a lot of money for our local charities, and believe it or not, even in charities in other states, because there's Raider fans all over the country.
There is, as we're learning here in Las Vegas as a team prepares to move here. Now, Mike, when you look at the current state of the Raiders, there's a lot of excitement. Of course, there was a little bit of frustration last year, which I expected because, everyone was excited when Coach Gruden came back. I know you were. The way they're building it now, though, this is a big year, a big draft. Talk about the excitement around the organization and what you've seen, because I know you're active.
Well, I think like a lot of Raider fans, I think we started off thinking last year that, hey, we're going to get to the playoffs this year. It's going to be great. And that didn't happen. And, and then they made a lot of changes, with getting rid of some players and different things. And I felt really low, but right now I'm very optimistic. I mean, they've made some different changes and bringing in some new people like Antonio Brown. This guy is a phenomenal player. I'm excited to see what he does when he joins the team. And there's other guys, too, that they're bringing. But I'm a defensive guy, so I always say I want defense. I want to see defensive guys come in, that an Antonio Brown defensive player. That's what I want to see, the guy who makes things happen on that side of the ball, because it's really defense that wins games. But I have to say, right now I'm super optimistic about this season.
Well, and the Raiders have addressed some of their needs in the defensive backfield at your old position and at safety. I know you do a lot with younger players. What kind of advice are you giving them now as they're in that building process under Paul Guenther?
Well, I haven't really had a chance to talk to the current players at all. But if I did have a chance, I would just tell them that, you cannot approach this game without using your help. And you need to know where your help is on running plays and pass plays. And a great defense is a defense that talks a lot. And so, like, I've been to several training camps of teams. Arizona State, we're talking about them. It was the quietest defensive I'd ever seen in my life. And I mentioned that to Herman. And so I've seen the same thing in pro defenses. When the ball is in the air, in our air, the safety was yelling, ball, 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 Mike, ball. If it's a run or a pass, we're yelling run or run, pass, pass, It's just a lot of communication, and that's what it takes to have a great defense. Everybody is thinking exactly the same, and I don't have to turn my head to see if I have a guy coming from my left. I hear him. I'm outside. So I know I can just come in and focus my attention on the guy in front of me, the offensive runner. So, that's what it takes. And so today, when I do talk to guys, I talk to them a little bit about technique, because there's a lot of things that, we learned. And over 14 years, I probably had 9 different position coaches, and all of them were great. And learning a little bit from each one of them. So I have a little bit more information than maybe a typical guy. And so I try to share that. But most of the difference is between the ears. It's what you think and how you approach the game, and being ready for every single thing. There's a lot of guys that don't even really warm up before the game. But if the first play of the game is a deep ball and you're not warmed up, you could, that's a touchdown. So I try to talk to them about, preparation, and really playing for each other, and get them to realize it's not about them; it's about the defense. And for me, it was always about our defense. Our offense, that's out of my control. But I can be in the huddle. I'm in the meetings. I can have an impact on the defense. So that's where my focus was.
Well, and with the way the NFL is now, with spread offense all over the place, that's even more important, isn't it?
Absolutely, it is. And, it's really kind of fun to watch the ball in the air, that, so many pass plays. I would love to be playing today. It would be a lot more fun.
That's what Cliff Branch says to me, too, when I talk to him. Well, let's also talk a little bit about why we're talking to you a bit today, which is about the Raider Foundation. They're having their Celebrity Swing coming up here at Top Golf on May 8th to benefit a great cause. You talked about how much the Raiders do in the community. For those folks that are in Las Vegas, we have listeners all over the country and all over the world, but here in Las Vegas, I think they don't understand just how involved the Raiders are in their communities and what they do. Talk about your involvement here and what you look to do.
Well, the Raiders, the foundation has always been involved with young people. Last year, I think the benefactor of the event was the military, the veterans, Veterans Village, and that's not unusual for the Raiders. It's going to be the veterans, or it's going to be the young people. And this year, it's communities in schools. Again, it's young people, and it's really for kind of people who have lost their way, you might say. When parents don't have money to buy clothes or buy food, or kids are missing school an awful lot and no one really knows why. There'll be a counselor at each one of these schools that are involved in the program, trying to help those families and those kids make sure they have what they need to succeed in school. if it's teaching them how to read or making sure they have books to read. And the Raiders have been great. There's a lady here named Sherry that I've met since I've been here in the last couple of days, and she shared some of the things that the Raiders have done to make sure that these kids have what they need. The Raiders have been great and created this beautiful room where they have everything they could possibly need, and then they've also given them money to do the same type of thing for several other schools in the area. So that's not unusual for the Raiders to do, and it's important, I think, for the public to know that that's what a lot of pro teams do, but the Raiders love doing that. Then you see the guys getting out in the community, and even some of these guys sitting down and reading stories to the kids, making a huge difference. Oh, yeah. And so I remember how that impacted me as a kid growing up in Los Angeles when the Lakers and the Dodgers would come out and talk to us. Hey, what kind of grades you getting? Hey, make sure you treat your mom with respect and things like that, and those things stick with you. And so when you can imagine if Charles Woodson was sitting down reading a book to a 6th grade class or a 4th grade class or whatever, and this is the guy that kid idolized or whatever, you can imagine the impact it would have on his life. So the Raiders have done that and done a wonderful job of that. And, that team hasn't even moved to Las Vegas yet, and they're already getting entrenched in the community with programs like this.
And one last question with you, Mike. I mean, you played in Los Angeles for the Raiders, of course, which was their second location. Now they're going to be going to the third. It's a little bittersweet for the fans in Oakland, of course. I think the fans in L.A. are pretty excited. It's a little closer. Talk about the move to Las Vegas and what you think it means to the franchise and to the legacy of the Raider franchise.
Well, to be totally honest, completely honest, I'm a little worried because, Las Vegas, I'm not sure that the Raiders are going to have a home field advantage because when they're in Los Angeles, when they're in Oakland, of course, you got a lot of fans there, and they all come to the game. And I'm sure they're going to come to the game here too. But when whoever they're playing in another city, those people who normally wouldn't travel with their team, they're going to want to come now. And they're going to be here. And their team is going to be buying a lot of tickets. And then you can imagine the football is starting to, be a lot more popular around the globe. You can imagine groups in Europe selling tickets to come to Las Vegas, see a Raider game, groups from Asia, groups from Mexico. And so I worry that at least if those other countries, that they're at least going to be Raider fans, if they're going to be unbiased and sitting in the stadium and just watching the game, that's not going to be cool to me. So I worry about it, but I really think that for football, for pro football, for the NFL, I think it's a great thing. And I think it's going to really help grow a game, increase the fan base, and be a lot more fun for people to watch football. I think football, pro football, is the 10th most popular sport in the world, and soccer's number 1. Well, maybe we can start to move down the list and eventually become number 1.
All right, Mike Haynes, Hall of Famer Raiders, I appreciate you taking the time today.
All right, thank you for having me.
All right, we're going to step aside. We'll be back right after this. You're listening to Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio 1140.
Entercom's first ever Great Easter Egg Hunt at Reflection Bay Beach and Golf Club at Lake Las Vegas is on Sunday, April 14th. This all-day family fun event has activities for all ages along with the main attraction, free Easter egg hunts with over 20,000 plastic Easter eggs and candy for children ages 1 through 10, and Lake Las Vegas's very own Bunny Buckets and his hopping signature buckets. Log on to CBSSportsRadio1140.com for more info. Brought to you by Reflection Bay Beach and Golf Club at Lake Las Vegas, Alta Fiore by Woodside Homes, Signature Preparatory School, Albertsons, and Family Promise of Las Vegas.
A union we can count on. A union with a legacy, known for hard work and getting things done. We're the ones who built this city with pride. Our members are our family, and their well-being is our number 1 priority. Laborers Union Local 872. Vegas strong, union proud.
And now, a quick comparison from Grasshopper. When a client calls, what do you want them to hear? Your personal voicemail?
Hey, you've reached Greg's cell phone. I'm away right now, obviously. Leave a message and maybe I'll get back to you.
Or something a little more buttoned up, courtesy of Grasshopper.
Thanks for calling Green Landscaping. To make an appointment, dial 1. For billing, dial 2. To speak with Greg Smith, dial 3.
There's no contest. Put your best voice forward with Grasshopper, the virtual phone system for small business. Try it free at grasshopper.com.
You're catering a wedding, and the bride says,
everyone is raving about the hors d'oeuvres.
My aunt was asking if you do corporate events.
Now is the time when the right business card is essential, and Vistaprint can help. Head to Vistaprint.com, and you can customize 500 cards starting at just $9.99. You choose the paper, the shape, and the finish. Whatever your style, create a card that gives you the confidence to own the next.
Search CBS Sports Radio 1140 in Las Vegas and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
All right, now we're joined by Sherry Ward of Communities in School Nevada. They are the beneficiary of the big Raiders celebrity swing event at Topgolf on May 8th. Sherry, thanks for joining us here on the Silver and Black today.
Thank you. We're happy to be here.
Okay, so let's give people background on your organization. You know, there's so many great things happening in our community and organizations who are helping folks. The Raiders, of course, coming into this community as a pro franchise want to do that. Talk about Communities in School and what you do and what your mission is.
So we are part of a national organization that has been around for over 40 years and leading dropout prevention program that both keeps kids in school and gets them to graduation. And we do that by putting full-time people in the school, so like either one or two depending on the size of the school, to find out what's keeping the kids from being successful and what can we do. And our full-time person there, it's all about building that one-on-one relationship with the kids and really find out what's going on and what the needs are and providing those needs. Even as far as having resource rooms with clothing, emergent food, school supplies, hygiene products. Whatever the need is, we're there for that.
And of course, in Southern Nevada, education, there's a lot of issues. It's one of the biggest challenges our community faces, and frankly, one of the things that's probably going to limit where we can go as a community, and keeping kids in school so that they can get out of school, get the skills they need to provide for themselves and have a good life. Talk about that overall and the piece that you play in that with other organizations who are trying to make sure education improves in our city.
So we believe that there's just a lot of things that can hinder the kids, and so we're in schools that have high poverty, high need, and we do assessment, see what their needs are, who's already there, and then bring community partners to the school. And we work with them. That's why we have the resource rooms, and that's why, say, a child, maybe what's wrong is they can't see, so you bring eye care for kids. It's that they could be homeless. There's over 15,000 homeless kids in our schools. And so it's finding all of those, or maybe it's finding a lot of them. I've just heard stories lately, they get to a point where they're not motivated. They don't see the future for them. And by building that one relationship, we can work with them and we can find what will motivate them and work with them on a day-to-day basis to then they do want to come to school and they do want to change.
That's awesome. And for what does it mean for you to have an organization like the Raiders and the Raiders Foundation to prevent or to come up with an event like this that's so high profile with a lot of celebrities that can bring in donors that can really help? What is that going to mean for you and for you over the next year?
So it really helps because, we have to get the matching funds to be in the schools. And we are hoping to grow this next year, and this will allow us to be in more schools. But even before this, they partnered with us this fall, did a resource room at Robert Taylor. We just went into our first Henderson school that's really high need school, and they outfitted it with the clothing and all of that stuff, and then gave us a check to do that in about 6 other schools. So that's amazing right there. And now this is just going to give an opportunity to help more students. And it's just, to me, what is great is how they've really gotten into the community and helping organizations like ours to be able to help more kids.
That's amazing. And Sherry, for those folks out there listening who would like to know more about your organization, perhaps donate to your organization or be involved in whatever way they can, how do they reach you?
They can get on our website at cisnevada.org, and everything will be there. You can donate now.
All right, and of course they can contact the Raider Foundation and be a part of this event, right?
That's right, on their Raider Foundation, that you can get on there too and do the same thing. And it would be great if people can come out and support this event.
It's amazing. Yeah, RaiderFoundation.org, they can do that. Sherry Ward, thank you so much for joining us on the Silver and Black today.
Thank you so much.
All right, that was an interview with Sherry Ward from the nonprofit Community in Schools of Southern Nevada. And just a reminder, join the Raiders Foundation and community leaders to celebrate the 2nd annual Celebrity Swing event on Wednesday, May 8th from 6:30 to 9 p.m. at Las Vegas Top Golf. Guests will enjoy an interactive evening of golf, food, and cocktails with Raiders alumni and team personnel. There's going to be some big names here, folks. Trust me on this one. Hosted by the Raiders Foundation, Celebrity Swing will benefit the said Community in Schools of Southern Nevada. To commit today or to learn more about the Raiders Foundation Celebrity Swing with sponsorship opportunities, please visit RaidersFoundation.org. Raiders Foundation doing huge things here in our community. And it's, guys, that's the thing. I think when people, especially people who were perhaps against the stadium at first or still are, I think they don't realize just how much NFL teams, because of their reach, because of the ability for them to use celebrity and the players and all that stuff, I don't think that they realize, those communities realize how much the Raiders are going to do here. We've talked about this for months on this show, but this is just another example.
Yeah, you got a good point there, because most people, anytime you have like a franchise or a stadium type thing, if you're not a sports fan, you're like, what does this do for me?
Right, exactly.
And you don't look big picture. What does it do for the city? What does it do for everybody else? It's going to be a big thing for everybody in town, not just sports fans.
Yeah, and Chaz, we have about 45 seconds left, but when you were with the Lakers, talk about when those guys went out real quick in the community, everybody loved to do that, didn't they? It was a part of who you are.
For the most part, yeah. And Mike Haynes had a great point. When he was a kid and they came to him, you could just see all the kids light up when these guys walk in the room. It just gives them something they're going to hold on to for the rest of their life.
All right. Well, we're going to step aside here for a break. Top of the hour. When we come back, we're going to talk about Raiders draft, mock drafts, and we're going to argue and have some fun with that one. You're listening to the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
The only way you can take CBS Sports Radio 1140 with you is with the radio.com app. Download it today and listen to us anytime, anywhere.
The most in-depth coverage of the Silver and Black as they set their sights on Las Vegas for 2020. Live from the CBS Sports Radio 1140 studios, it's Silver and Black today. Join the conversation by calling 702-889-5978. Now, here's Scott Gulbransen.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of the Silver and Black today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas. Thanks for joining us, guys. Great first hour. A little bit of talk about draft, what's going on with Mike Mayock. And then, of course, we heard from Hall of Famer Mike Haynes and Sherry Ward. Of course, that charity event, the Celebrity Swing Again, May 8th at Top Golf. If you have a business and you have the means to sponsor, it's great. It's going to the nonprofit schools in Southern Nevada, and that's the Community and Schools of Southern Nevada. So a great opportunity. And again, about community and what's happening here in Las Vegas. But Chaz, you were making the point with Mike Haynes. Great, by the way, just a great guy. I mean, fantastic interview.
Yeah.
Really a joy to be around. But talk about Haynes and kind of all of that. And
well, it's funny, he talks about the kids. I was one of those kids looking up to him. I had that no passing zone poster on my wall growing up as a kid. Mike Haynes and Lester Hayes and Van McElroy and Mike Davis, and they got a couple of Harleys. There's a Sunset in L.A. They're downtown Los Angeles. And so he was one of the guys I looked up to as a kid. And to come full circle and just to hear him talk about, the community work and how great all the things he's doing. The one thing he was talking about was the home field advantage for
I
Las
disagreed with
Vegas.
him on that one.
Yeah. I mean, we were talking about that in the studio. I know that the Golden Knights, they were doing something where you weren't allowed to sell your tickets, but I don't think the Raiders are doing that. And I know the Raider fans are going to show up, but every other team, when the schedule comes out, they're going to kind of circle on the calendar, hey, we're taking a trip to Las Vegas to go see, da-da-da.
Well, and also I think the difference is, as our good friend Ed Marshall up in Alaska, who listens to us on the radio.com app, he pointed out that the tickets, too, it's a little bit different because the tickets are not going to be, Raider fans have tickets. They're going to come to the games. It's not like they're not going to come to the games. And to me, you also get, it's not like the hockey team here in town who holds your tickets hostage from you.
Right.
You have to sell them through their system so they can track how many you sell. The Raiders, you're going to get your tickets. You're going to get physical tickets and digital tickets. So, guys, you're going to be able to do what you want. And again, and people forget because the Knights are so special to this city, as they should be, and I'm a big fan too. They are the NHL, though. Remember, the NHL is the 5th sport in the country. The NFL is number 1. And so the NFL tends to do things a little differently and better. And I think the ticketing thing is a perfect example, Kelly.
Yeah, that's one thing. If you're a season ticket holder, I don't care if it's, the 10 games with the NFL package, the 41 with like hockey, and there are going to be games you can't go to.
Right.
There might be a game where you can sell that ticket to pay for half your season tickets. People have to do that to be able to afford tickets nowadays because the expense in the game is not just the ticket. It's once you get to the game. Right. It's so expensive to take a family to a game anymore. No one's going to preseason games because why would you? You know, but say that like I said, say there's 1 or 2 big games here, you can sell those and pay for the rest of your package. That ensures those people are buying tickets again next year.
Yeah. But I also think that the difference here, and I think the mistake that and a telling issue with the way the hockey team here has handled it, right, is the fact that they are actually concerned that people will sell their tickets and they will lose their home ice advantage. See, I think with the Raiders, you don't have an issue of that happening. I think if people who have the tickets in Las Vegas sell them, they're going to sell them. It's going to go to Raiders fans for the most part. Now, I'm not saying there's not going to be probably an increased number of visiting fans that come in because it is Las Vegas, but I do think it's just not the same problem. I don't think you're going to have the issue that you have with hockey because, again, it's not the number 5 sport, it's the number 1 sport.
Yeah, the Raider fans show up. We saw that in San Diego. For 20 years I was going to that game in San Diego, and it was 60, 70, sometimes 80% Raider fans at a San Diego home game. And I went to a handful of other Charger games with, whoever they were playing, the Bears and Dolphins, and it was like 50-50 every time. So, the Charger fans are kind of fair weather. There's plenty of other things to do in San Diego, but the Raider fans show up. And they're gonna show up in Vegas.
They always did. In fact, so much so that they stopped Chargers fans from selling their tickets for Raider games or buying them. You had to buy 3 games.
You had to buy a 3-game package
games,
just to get the Raider.
which I thought was also chicken, you know what. By the way, Victor on Facebook, I got to say this just because it's funny, and I have to clean it up, Victor. Even though you wrote it kind of clean, Victor is calling Mike Mayock. He gave him a nickname. He called him, and I'll clean this up for radio. He called him Big Rooster. There's another rooster for Rooster, if you guys catch my drift.
Big Rooster
Mayock, which is pretty funny because it rhymes, and I like it. Anyway, all right.
Hope so. Hopefully we're calling him that in a couple of weeks.
Yes, but also, but again, thanks to Sherry Ward, too, from Communities and Schools for doing that. Also, speaking of communities and schools, we also have a report here from our own engineer and correspondent, David Stepanian, who talked to some folks at UNLV. David is a UNLV graduate, of course, and he claims
UNLV
it.
graduate.
He claims it. But we talked to him. He talked to folks because the Raiders are actually dipping into the UNLV talent pool.
What? They have a talent pool?
Yeah, and not in the sports,
not football
academically.
wise, not football wise.
But anyway, David has a report here about how the Raiders and UNLV are working together and hiring students.
In 2020, when the Raiders moved to the near $2 billion stadium on Russell Road, they're going to have a roommate. It won't be an MLB team this time. It'll be UNLV Rebel football. And what better way to welcome their partnership with the school than by hiring students out of UNLV to come work for the team? Current student Marco Santander is an editor for videos on the Raiders YouTube channel.
It's giving us students opportunity to get experience with a professional football team. Not a lot of cities can say, or not a lot of students can say, that a professional football team is looking for help from students. I mean, you have to go through meeting people and networking, and it's just a really long process. And the fact that they're doing this for students, it's just amazing. It just comes to show what type of organization they are.
Not everyone who currently works for the team up in the Bay Area will be relocating to Vegas, so naturally the team set its sights on getting Las Vegas locals to become a part of the team. The show, From the Ground Up, which follows the construction of the new stadium, is mostly filmed and edited by UNLV students such as Casey Carpenter.
Yeah, so the first time I got a chance to go on site, I believe it was like around September of last year, and that was when they just started putting up the rakers that hold the stands. And so hardly any steel was up at this point. It was just like a little tiny bowl before it had any huge steel trusses holding anything up. And so I got to do a night shoot, a morning shoot, and cover this stuff, and then go back to the edit bay and actually start putting some of that together, which was really cool to do. So yeah, it's an amazing opportunity, and I'm grateful that I actually was at UNLV at the right time doing this. I was doing it just to help, so like I consider myself very lucky. Right place, right time, right?
The Raiders and UNLV will both begin play at the new Las Vegas Stadium in August of 2020. For Silver and Black Today, I'm David Stepanian.
All right, David, with a nice piece there. Again, the Raiders making more impact in the community, helping college students get experience and maybe even get a job with an NFL team. I mean, that's incredible. When I went to UNLV, we didn't have a professional team. We had a bunch of crappy little things that happened, but that was it. So, David, real quick on this one, tell us a little bit about, how is it received well on campus, and how is the opportunity really helping folks there in the UNLV program?
Oh, I think it's awesome. Students are definitely excited. I mean, they get to put something like that on their resume. I mean, an NFL team, it's great. Students are excited. The Raiders are excited, and it sort of follows a page from our other pro sports teams like the Golden Knights, Aviators, Aces, who also hire out of UNLV. So it's definitely an awesome thing and gives students a ton of opportunities.
Yeah, and it's been great too, because it's not like they're running and get coffee for people at the Raiders. I mean, they're putting together amazing content that Raider fans, whether you're in Las Vegas or not, can see on the website and in their social channels as well, right?
Yeah, and people don't realize these are UNLV students. These are college students making these incredible videos, and they really do a great job, especially from the ground up. I mean, they really do a great job with their content.
All right. David Stepanian, thanks, my man. I appreciate it. And we had to look at the back of your head only on camera, so we apologize about that. But
that's his best side.
That's his best side. Yes, David. We'll get David more involved.
Come
but
on, guys.
Again, back to the community thing. That's what they do. And now, David, because of your report, Raider fans, we have so many who listen to us outside the Las Vegas market because Raider Nation's worldwide. They now know about it. It's a pretty cool thing as well. And when we come back after break, we're going to talk more about the draft. We're going to get into some mock drafts. I made the joke of calling them mock parentheses mockery draft because we're all just guessing, right, guys? But we did some work, and Kelly's latest was actually on our website at silverandblacktoday.com. You can go read his latest draft, and we'll talk about that one as the basis for our discussion. But I'm just happy, guys, that we're almost at the end of this and we can talk about real stuff, right? And get to the nitty-gritty here, being now just 2 weeks out, 2.5 weeks, almost 3, I guess, out of that. So I'm excited about it. And there hasn't been any big news on guys getting in trouble or health things. That's going to come pretty soon.
Yet.
Right?
It always comes out late, and because teams are still doing their due diligence.
Bingo, due diligence. That's on our one. But Chaz, you talked about the health thing earlier, and that's this week. If I remember from last year, this was like the week that right before, maybe a little later, when the Mo Hurst stuff came up with his heart condition and all this. So it'll be interesting to see what happens, and we'll talk about those issues and the mock drafts coming right after this. We'll also share with you our big boards. Yes, we have big boards.
Yes.
At least that's what they tell us. Anyway, we are going to step aside, pay some bills. When we come back, more here on Silver and Black Today on CBS Sports Radio, 1140 a.m.
1140.
This is Mark Bedane, president of the Raiders. You're listening to Silver and Black Today.
Oh, yes, you are. There's no doubt. Silver and Black Today here on CBS Sports Radio in Las Vegas, in the state of Nevada, which is battle-born, Chaz. Now you learned why. You learned why, and so that's good. That's a good thing.
Love learning something new every day.
We try to teach here. We try to teach people things. But anyway, thanks for being with us, as always. And now we're going to get into some draft talk, some more draft talk, and look at what the Raiders may do. Of course, we're all just guessing, folks. I don't care if you're the most seasoned and grizzled veteran reporter out there, if you work for the biggest publication in the world, or you work for a fan site. We're all just guessing based on the information we have. But we wanted to go over some of the picks. And Kelly, this is a little bit your baby, only because you wrote a piece this week on Silver and Black Today with your latest mock draft. Now, you did one very early, and like you said, you don't do one every week like some folks do. You're trying to be selective and not just write something to write something. So you did one this time where you kind of updated it. Some things changed. There were some surprises, but just to review, because I want to get to a couple of the selections you have here. Of course, at 4 you had Josh Allen, right, with their first pick. Noah Fant at 24. I think he'll be gone. DeAndre Baker at 27. And Reisner at 35. Talk a little bit about your reasoning and how you see this setting up and why, in your draft, based on what might happen, why you got to this point.
Well, at 4, Allen is just which of the top guys falls to 4. And that's, as long as Kyler Murray still goes 1, in my opinion, the Raiders take whoever falls between Bosa, Allen, and Williams. They may choose, like in this one we got Allen, which edge is the the bigger need, so to speak. I would personally rather see the Raiders take Quinnen Williams. I just think, he's going to be a little safer of a pick. Noah Fant at 24, they definitely need a tight end. Luke Wilson's not really doing anything for me. So you get a guy, explosive, not going to do you a ton in the in run blocking or pass blocking, but he's more of that kind of split out tight end. That's going to be your big pass catcher. DeAndre Baker, corner. You put him on the side of Conley. I think that really sets up your secondary. It's he's starting to fall a little bit for attitude issues. It's obvious that the Raiders don't really not that they don't put a lot of stock into that, but the least of their worries is if you are talented, they will take you.
Especially now, absolutely. They need
we
talent.
Talked about that
talent.
A little chip on your shoulder.
And he was he won the Jim Thorpe Award for the best defensive back in college football last year, so the talent's there. And then I got Dalton Reisner at 35. I'm taking him to play guard. He could play right tackle. He could play right tackle, right guard, center, left guard. He can play any 4 of the spots. I would probably throw him in there at left guard because there is a need.
There's a need for it.
There's a need.
What about? But some people say move Gabe Jackson to that side. You think this would be a better move?
Okay, move Gabe Jackson that side. He plays right guard.
Right guard.
I mean,
exactly. Guard spot, not tackle.
Yeah, the Raiders need a guard. I don't care if it's right or left because you've got Gabe at 1, but there's a. I'll be nice and say there's a lack of talent on the depth in the guard area on the Raiders offensive line.
You talked about Rock Yassin in your article. Who do you have? Who's your top-rated cornerback? Who's your favorite quarterback?
Top-rated corner is Byron Murphy. It's he's not like the issue with all of the corners in this. They're kind of not scheme dependent, but there's like everyone has a scheme they work best in. And Byron Murphy, if you put him in a zone scheme, in my opinion, is hands down the best, and it's not even close.
I just started watching all the film on the corners, and he's by far got the best technique.
Yeah,
Rock is a great name for this guy because his body. This guy's built like a rock, and he can tackle. He's got a wrestling background, and man, he gets in there and mixes it up.
Yeah, but did you notice the lack of takeaways? Because he has a very hard time high pointing the ball and getting his head around. Doesn't have top end speed, so when he gets beat, he panics, and you're going to see a lot of flags from him in the pros.
Yeah. Well, my favorite, the guy you just talked about, was DeAndre Baker. He was probably, after watching all the film, I put him a little bit ahead of Byron Murphy just because of the size. Byron Murphy's a little undersized. I didn't know if he had like that long-term speed we talk about. Like once a receiver gets going, his motor starts. I feel like Byron just couldn't keep up.
That's one of the reasons that I think he's best in his zone. But also the way he played at Washington, it was, he's fast.
He's smooth.
He's fast enough because his footwork's good enough, and he's smart. Like he's the best at diagnosing what's coming, so he can make up for the lack of top end speed.
Yeah, no, he was really smooth to watch. I mean, it looked seamless going down there. But few intangibles, undersized, it's going to happen. And then Greedy Williams, same thing, long, athletic, but he just.
If he hits his ceiling, he's the best.
But he didn't like a tackle.
Well, I was going to say, he's a buffet tackler, man. He picks and chooses when he wants to do it.
Yeah.
A buffet, yeah.
Yeah.
And he's waiting for extra prime rib.
He's not very physical.
Yeah.
Well,
and he gives up on way too many plays. If something's on the other side of the field from him, he's not tracking it down on the back end.
Well, and just to compare to your draft here, I'm gonna give you my what I call my reach draft because I made some decisions which will be controversial. Josh Allen, number 4, same reason you talked about. Then in the draft that I conduct, and we all use Draft Network for this, as I think most people are. At 24, Jonah Williams was there. And I thought Jonah Williams, again, knowing that the help you need at offensive line, to me, that just made all the sense in the world. And I'm a huge fan and proponent of Williams and think that he would be an amazing addition to really any team. 27, I have a guy here that you took later, right, which is Josh Jacobs. I took him at 27. You had him at 106.
Yeah, which
a little bit of a disparity there between how you looked at him and I did.
And I even admitted in the story that that's not happening. I mean, unless there's a big medical red flag that comes out on Josh Jacobs, there is zero chance he falls to 106.
Yeah, no, I agree. I like him there. And you thought, though, that me taking him at 27 might be that might be me pulling a Gruden for need versus the best talent available.
Yeah, I mean, he's the number 1 running back, in my opinion, in this draft, but he would have been like 4 or 5 in last year's, in my opinion. This is just a real weak running back class. I don't think you should take. I mean, just because he's the best in the class doesn't mean he's going to be the best pick to take. I would rather go in the 4th, 5th, 6th range to where you're going to be able to find somebody that's not quite as dynamic as him, but just for the value on the pick, you're going to get enough out of that to where you're not spending a 1st or 2nd round pick when, in my opinion, the defense needs more work than the offense.
No doubt. And just to compare too, and we'll get to Chaz, some of your picks too. At 35, I had a guy who our senior NFL writer, columnist Hayden Nadolny loves and messaged me about a few times a couple weeks ago is LJ Collier, who's an edge out of TCU. I had him at 35. And then at 106, where you picked Josh Jacobs, my guy, who I'm a fan of, is going to take some time for development. I'll add that caveat, but I think would be a great pickup for the Raiders at tight end as Kahale Waring out of San Diego State. Didn't play a lot, but when he did, he flashed brilliance, and a guy that at 106, if he's there, I would grab in a heartbeat.
He might be there, he might not, because, I mean, he is one of those guys that's starting to really kind of creep up the draft boards because you're seeing some of the other tight ends that were up there that are just falling off now. So yeah, if he's there at 104, grabbing him would be great because like I said, I took Fant in the 1st. Wasn't super excited about that, but there is a definite need at tight end in this offense.
You don't need to draft a tight end. You just convert one of these basketball players.
Now, Chaz, what about you with your drafts? What did you have any differences from what we talked about here as far as in those first 5 picks?
No, well, Kyler Murray was available when I was picking. So.
Oh, Raider Nation. Here he is,
So
Chaz
sorry.
Osborne.
No. My name's Chaz Osborne. I'm a Derek Carr apologist. That's
what they say on Twitter, at least.
I picked Kyler Murray because you have to. I figure I'd trade him down to New York or somebody and get their first rounder and second rounder. And
Okay, so as you're saying as trade bait, if in that situation you wouldn't be taking him as a player you're going to keep, but as someone you're going to use for a chip.
Right, absolutely. And then when we got down to the second pick, I had Christian Wilkins, and I only saw the the national championship game, but this guy, he was just like so disciplined. He's not a game. I mean, he is a game changer, but he wasn't. He didn't just pop out at you. But he just stayed in his lane. He just did exactly, what he was supposed to do, and he was so nimble for a big. And his footwork, like he could move.
There's a big divide, from what I'm hearing, on people love him or they're not too excited about him because he's going to be a great run stuffer, great in the middle.
Right.
They're just not sure how much of a pass rush you're going to get out of him. And everybody's freaked out. You can't take a defensive tackle that can't rush the passer anymore.
No. Well, and we're gonna talk a little more about this. We have Kelly's Corner coming up next, but I'm sure once we get past, and Kelly's got a good one today too. But we'll finish up our talk on the draft, share a little bit on our big boards after we pay some bills. We'll be back right here on the Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio. Love.
CBS Sports Radio. This is Silver and Black Today, live on CBS Sports Radio 1140. Here's your host, Scott Gulbranson.
Happy Sunday, everybody. Welcome back to Silver and Black Today as we are down the stretch for those horse racing fans out there. I grew up, and Chaz and I grew up next to Del Mar, which was always a good time.
Kelly grew up next to
Right
Churchill.
down by Churchill.
Churchill Downs, yeah. So we all have some horse blood in our blood. We might have some other horse qualities,
Mayock.
but we don't get in that on the air.
Big horse Mayock.
David Sapana, our engineer, is just mortified. But thanks for being with us back here. We're going to get back to talking about Raider football. And also, this part of the show is the part we turn over to Kelly, because Kelly has a very special knack for, as he calls it, being a realist, right?
Yep.
Realist. And so we're gonna hear from Kelly here in Kelly's Corner. Take it away, buddy.
Yeah, I'm gonna be old man. Get off my lawn here for a second. But Amir Johnson got fined by the 76ers for using his cell phone on the bench during a basketball game.
Wow.
And I'm watching this thinking, good Lord. I mean, you can't go, like, you can't even go through a game. You're sitting there. You're favored to win this playoff series.
Yeah.
You're losing game one at home, and you're getting just housed. And you're just sitting there on your phone. And then about a week.
Who does that? I mean, you're working, right? You're a professional at what you do, and you're on your cell phone.
He's a professional. You guys can do whatever you want because no one's worried about you guys. But then a couple weeks ago, Cliff Kingsbury mentions about how at Texas Tech, he would actually have cell phone breaks for his players during meetings.
Cell phone breaks?
Yeah. So basically, kids are growing up, can't be away from their phone long enough to do a meeting, do your job, or do anything like that. And instead of trying to, I don't know, break them of that and maybe be kind of professional, you're caving into it and allowing them to be like, yeah, I know you can't, I know you don't have the mind, you don't have the capacity to go an hour without looking at your phone. So every 30 or 45 minutes, I'll give you a 15-minute phone break instead of, I don't know, trying to be a professional football player.
Yeah.
You're getting paid millions of dollars, and instead of these coaching staffs trying to get you the discipline and the want to actually be a professional football player, you got to get on your Facebook.
That's
page.
funny. You say that.
You got to get on Instagram.
We, when we would go into the war room, we had a big box, and everybody had to put their cell phone into that box, so nobody could have it.
Not anymore. Now you could be on the bench.
Right.
That's crazy.
Well, I get that. I get that in a draft room because last thing you want, because every draft room has leaks because one guy wants to feel like he's important to the local beat writer.
Yeah.
That's how all that stuff get. You were that guy. Yeah.
Well, there was an article about that, and somebody wrote in the article after talking with a Laker scout, and so the general manager saw that, immediately said, "All right, well," and he was loose lips, sink ships kind of guy.
Yeah.
So you don't talk to anybody. We never. And I didn't want to talk to the media anyway. And now here I am as a part of the media. So everybody,
we're on the fringe of that. We're not right there yet.
Alleged media.
So everybody's putting their cell phone in the box. It just seemed funny,
But I mean, nowadays, no. Hey, you can't expect somebody to do their job without having time to be on their phone.
Social media influencers.
But it's also a microcosm of everything in society. You look at parents, being a parent of kids, I watch how parents just pawn off their kids. They give them a device, go in the corner, leave me alone type of thing.
Sure.
And I think giving in to this entitlement attitude really is now permeating into, as these kids have grown into men, now making millions of dollars. They've been given everything from a perspective of at the sport. And so now they're just being ridiculous in allowing this. And I get it. It's a different time. We age, our generations were different. And so you have to adapt. No question. I know a lot of coaches, and they do have to adapt based on how kids are. But I think almost every ailment we have in society goes back to parenting. And I think this is another example. And so now coaches
I blame you parents.
That's right. Not well. Those of us who don't parent, I happen to parent. Not perfect, make plenty of mistakes, but just crazy. Kelly's Corner. I love it, man. Good stuff. Okay, so now let's get back to a little bit of the draft talk, guys. We were going through some of our mock drafts. And Kelly, also up on silverandblacktoday.com, you wrote about this week about 4 off-the-radar draft prospects Raider fans should know. Josh Jacobs, who we talked about a little bit ad nauseum earlier at running back Alabama. And Chaz mentioned Rock Ya-Sin, best name in the draft, at cornerback out of Temple. Kelly, talk about him and why you think he may be off the radar for fans when he actually should be somebody that that everyone should be paying attention to.
Well, coming from Temple, not on national TV a lot of people, probably haven't seen him play. Being at a cornerback position, it's a lot easier for those guys to get overlooked because unless you're making some big pick six or a big play in a big game, you don't see those highlights on TV. You don't really hear about them. And he came. He's kind of like a late riser.
Only 1 year at Temple.
I was gonna say, he transferred in from. It wasn't Presbyterian. I was trying to think of the name. Yeah, he transferred in and had the 1 year. And it's like you said, he's press man. He's got the body for it. He's going to make the tackle.
He's really competitive. You can see his competitiveness.
Yeah, but want to and to be able to do it are two different things.
That's right.
It's that the lack of speed and just being a little sloppy at the line, something you can work with. Being able to high point the ball, get your head around. That's something you can kind of work with. So you see, you can see that you've got something. You got something you can kind of mold and play with.
With like everybody in the draft, it's upside, right? It's always upside. And a lot of the players this year, it's a small sample size. He only played 1 year. A lot of these guys, Byron Murphy only played 20 games. So it seems like this draft more than others is just a really small sample size of what you're getting.
And you're going to start running into that with as many underclassmen that keep coming in.
Right.
So it's just you're basically going to have to start. And I don't mind, like they talk about Quinnen Williams. Well, he only did it for 1 year.
Right.
Well, he only got to play 1 year because the 4 guys in front of him are all in the NFL. It's like Kyler Murray. He only has 1 year. Well, yeah, because he transferred and then had to sit behind the guy that was, I don't know, the number 1 pick in the draft.
Right.
If you have 1 year of production and a couple years of no production, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But if you just have 1 year where you're just completely, produced, you've got to see, okay, why was it just the 1 year? What do we think it's going to, Christian Hackenberg had 1 year of great production.
Gosh, you had to bring up him.
His freshman year. The next 2 years were crap. So that's how you.
And he even bombed out of the AAF. So incredible. Now, if we guys look at, we all did big boards, right? So I'm holding this up for the folks who are watching up here. I want to go through real quickly our top 6 or 8 big board guys with some of the time we have left here. And see, who did you? I had Nick Bosa as 1. Anybody else not have Nick Bosa as 1? I think Chaz.
I had Quinnen.
Yeah, I had Quinn at 1 too. I got Nick Bosa going down a little bit. I don't know what my problem is with him. Maybe we're going to find out more about his character, or it's just the same thing. Small sample size.
Are you quote unquote saying source it? No, I know.
No, and it's like I said, everybody's worried because he is so clean in character. They want something to come up.
I don't want something to come up.
He's too clean for character.
That's what the thing is. He's too clean. There's got to be something there. Because
but that comes with your father being in the NFL, your older brother being in the NFL.
But the injury thing too, that's kind of looming for me. His brother seems injury prone, and now he's sat out a year. And
his father had injuries too, but it's all different things. It's not like it's not like something runs in the family.
Well, but the thing with Nick Bosa, and I had him number 1. I've been a little bit on your side, Chaz. Like, great player, but I was never enamored with him. Like I see the talent, but for some reason there's just like a nagging thing there for me.
Yeah.
But again, though, you talked about cell phones. Here the media goes again, and being members of the media, I know we're part of that club, but at the same time, the tweets, digging up tweets from people's past. Well, he supported the president. Well, listen, we don't get political on the show. We never will. And I don't care if you hate the president or love the president. I'm happy for you either way. But to attack people, what is this deal that we're trying to destroy these young people by what they might have said? I mean, I said stupid stuff when I was 14. Thank God this stuff wasn't around, or I might have never been able to get a job.
I'm 40 and I say stupid stuff on a daily basis.
Oh, that's right. You're 40 now. Yeah. I forgot. Oh, man. Okay. Welcome to the club. But yeah, to me, Bosa at number 1, I think you can't deny. I had Williams 2. I had Allen 3. Jonah Williams 4. There's my taste for him there. And I had Jawan Taylor at 5 and Ed Oliver at 6. How about you guys?
I Quinnen, Bosa, Allen. 4, I had Ed Oliver. 5 was Jeffrey Simmons.
Jeffrey
and
Simmons.
Then 6 was Devin White.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I put Devin White up in that top 5.
There's a lot of talk now about people are like, well, it's not as good as Roquan Smith was last year. Well, no, Roquan Smith was the best middle linebacker to come out of the draft since Luke Kuechly.
Yes.
But people keep forgetting that he's only played middle linebacker for 3 years. He went to LSU as a running back. He's still learning the position, and as good as Devin White is right now, he's better.
Yeah.
And the Butkus Award winner, right?
What did you call me? All right, we're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, we'll close out the show. We'll finish up our talk about the draft and our big boards, and we'll close out the show for you here on Silver and Black today on CBS Sports Radio. lot of I think feedback from everybody too, which is great. And again, I was just thanking all of you for helping us be on the air for a year, and we got renewed a few months ago. But I'll share that news today too. So we're renewed in radio. It's always year by year unless you sign a longer contract. And so again, because of you guys going from website, podcast to radio show, you deserve all the credit for helping us and the feedback. You help us get better, and I certainly appreciate that. And having these guys next to me now is really a great thing too. I think we have the right mix of folks. Although Chaz keeps touching me under the table, I'm a little concerned. No, just kidding. But again, thank you to you guys. And I know for both of you and Kelly, you've done podcasts and stuff in the past. Chaz, you were a scout, so you were behind the scenes. What's it been like for you getting on the air and kind of being part of this? And again, both of you Raiders fans, but coming at it from a professional perspective.
You have no idea how hard it is for me to be on live air for 2 hours and not cuss. It is the hardest thing ever because I've got the mouth of a sailor.
Yeah, you do. Oh boy, Chaz, what about you, man? You're early in this process, but you're chiming along. You know the Raiders so well, but talk about being on this show and the fans that we have and the people that listen.
The fans are the greatest. I for the longest time working in the front office over there for the NBA, I didn't want to deal with the media because they were always spinning negative stories and
about the Lakers.
Now you get to spin them.
You're right. So now I get to make up stuff. So it's fun being a part of the media. Of course, loving the Raiders and wanting to dig in deeper and find out more stories and games and doing all the reporting. It's just it's a dream come true. I appreciate it.
Well, and for you, I mean, being a Raider fan, did you is it hard for you to you bring a little bit of that fan with you here, which our listeners like, but I think one of the things that I'm most proud of with the show and with the website is that we stay objective and we take it from a profession. We're members of the Nevada Press Association. We won the best podcast in the state last year from them. Yep. And so we try to do that. Pro Football Writers Association we're also members of as well. But for you as a fan, has it helped you as a fan look at things differently?
I think I've always kind of been objective. You always look at both sides of it, just in life and in general anyway. So, you want to be at the game, you want to be cheering, but you're also a realist, as Kelly's taught me now. I just, the Raiders aren't going to go 12-4 every year and contend for the Super Bowl, unfortunately. So it is fun being on this side of it and looking at things, not looking through silver-colored glasses all the time, kind of being real and digging deeper into it.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I think we live in a time where it's very interesting. You have media, and then I think you have some fans who get some access like the media does, and they cover it from a different point. And I think some people like that. I happen to be not a big fan of that. I like to actually, to Kelly's point about being a realist, I call it objectivity, but maybe I'm old school. But I like that piece of it. We try to do that here. I'm not saying we always succeed with everything we do, and when we don't, we hear from you guys plenty. But I certainly appreciate that, and I appreciate you guys being along for the ride. We got a busy couple weeks with the draft coming up. We're going to have a special draft show here on CBS Sports Radio 1140. We'll tell you about that very soon. Chaz is doing a story this week on draft watching parties in Las Vegas for those of you coming. And I think the first one's the one at your house, right? You're putting that one in with your address?
Till the beers run out, and then we just roll on to the next.
But we're going to do that too. So I want to say, Kelly, Chaz, thanks for being along the journey and for completing the team here. And we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you, man.
We will have an Easter show next week. And David, I think you at the end. Just be quiet. These entitled millennials. Anyway, want to thank
Lotus. He's been on his phone the whole time.
Yes,
he's been on the air.
I want to thank David Stepanian, our engineer and correspondent. For Kelly Kreiner, for Chaz Osborne. We sign off, but we never say goodbye, Raider Nation. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next week here. Same bat channel, same bat time on the Silver and Black today. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you for a year on the air. Take care, everybody.